guys? Welcome back to Strong Successful Mail. So for today, going to go over an email that was sent from a subscriber. That's from a guy. He is an avid listener. He is a truck driver, definitely R-pilled, spends lots of his time driving, listening to this type of content. And he's writing in to share the story of his buddy, who is definitely that type, and his story where actually has a happy ending, where a guy actually got himself a darn good gal, which this guy describes as a unicorn. I don't believe in unicorns because I don't believe in fairy tales, but I do think there are a lot of good gals out there, and you can always tell a good one by their actions. And in this story here, you're going to see this guy, the gal he describes, she makes a boneheaded move, absolutely, but it's not evil. And after that, you're going to see that her actions show that she's one of the good ones when this guy gets into a tough situation work-wise. And I thought it'd be a very good one to go over here, guys, just to show you how this guy handles her, how he handles the whole situation, and it actually ends with something that on a positive note, because we frankly need more of that here. And it's good to hear that families can stay together and mom and dad can both have something happy that they can then show their kids, and maybe more and more kids won't be less messed up as they are today in the future generations. We can do this one step at a time here. So that'll be a good one to go over here on a Friday. He says, "Hello SSM. I'd like to share with you a story of one of my best friend's journey through life so far, and how he was able to have a happy married life with a unicorn." Well, I don't believe in unicorns. Unicorns are only in the Harry Potter universe. But I do think that there are some gals out there that have some darn good gals that have great qualities, but they're harder and harder to find. So if your guy found a darn good gal, good for him. First, as the narrator of the story, I feel it's important to give my background so that people know how I view the world. I'm a single bachelor. No wife, no kids, no problems. Notice he said that, no problems. I would rather be in a happy, committed relationship with kids than to be single. However, I've been more afraid of marrying the wrong woman than being alone, and frankly, being alone isn't bad because of all my time, money is my own. Get in line, bro, because you got plenty of other people with you in that department. I no longer believe in marriage and view it as a government institution that only protects women's interests at the expense of men. I grew up as the typical blue pill beta until I got RP'd in 2010. It hit me like a bolt of thunder and shook me out of the blue haze. I've been consuming R-pill content ever since. I'm a truck driver, so I listen to 3 to 5 hours of YouTube men's content nearly every day. I am bright neon crimson pilled and have developed the alpha mindset. You listen to this material 3 to 5 times a day, you're going to have it down to a science. Any situation that comes your way, you will have heard in different stories and situations and scenarios. I met my friend Chad, interesting name, when he was 26 years old, but his story starts when he was 18. Chad is a natural alpha. He got in trouble in his youth and was put in juvie for about a year. He was bored there, and the only thing he did was go to school and lift weights. He came out of juvie 6 foot tall, 220 pounds with 10% body fat at 18 years old. That's a big dude. He saw where his life was headed, and if he continued his current reckless path and got a taste of what would come being in prison school, and he's never been in trouble since. Well, I'm glad that he was scared straight. Shortly before he got in trouble, he met Stacy, his future wife. When he got out, they resumed their relationship. Chad isn't naive and knew Stacy was dating when he was in prison school. To him, it was just getting back together with a girl that he liked. Chad did some dating of his own before they got back together. Stacy got pregnant despite being on the pill and got pregnant again while also being on the pill. Their daughters are about 2 to 3 years apart. I questioned Chad on this, if Stacy was actually taking birth control or if this was a planned pregnancy on her part. He told me that she was, and it made sense. They were both teenagers with no assets, so baby trapping didn't make much financial sense. I joke with Chad that the sperm is strong in this one, and they married at a young age. Yeah, I'm not quite buying all this. Who knows? I mean, a lot of gals have baby trap guy. Sometimes it isn't just for money. They just want that guy. They want that commitment. It happens. Remember, emotions are doing all the thinking, not necessarily the brain power. I met Chad through work when he was 26, and we became best friends about 3.5 years later. We both had different jobs and no longer worked together at this point. Chad was working out of state and away from his family and had been complaining to me that Stacy had grown cold and distant to him. One day he told me that they were getting a divorce. Whoa. Well, get married really young, and he said also that she's been cold and distant to him. There you go. He wasn't tolerating this shit. And when women usually get real cold and distant, there's usually something's going on. They ain't happy. That's one thing for sure. I expressed my condolences and told him that was one of my greatest fears. To marry a woman, have kids with her, and then get divorced. Chad never mentioned any infidelity. He said he wasn't getting his needs met in the marriage and wasn't going to put up with any BS anymore. Well, that's the case. Good for Chad. Because that's what Chads do. They don't put up with any BS. Stacy didn't make the divorce difficult and wasn't vindictive. I think she was sad it was happening. Okay, so she was cold and distant. It's been going on too long. His needs were being met. He was tired of the bullshit and said, that's it, we're moving on. And as this guy describes, she didn't make it difficult and was sad it was happening. Okay. Well, we're going to find out eventually what was going on. During one visit to see his kids one day, Stacy's boyfriend at the time started to give Chad attitude. Words were exchanged and tempers flared. Stacy came out and screamed, "Don't hurt him, Chad." Chad has a long history of fighting, and Stacy knew it. She probably liked that. Come on. She probably liked that Chad was a fighter because that way she could always feel safe with him, in case danger ever came their way. Women like guys that can fight. Just ideally, not on them. Although some actually like that. But the point is, women like a guy that's strong and tough and can fight and take care of themselves. They feel safe. And I'm sure she does. I'm sure she likes two guys fighting over her too. The boyfriend's chest puffed up and his body in verbal language said he wasn't afraid of Chad and took a swing at him. Chad knocked him out in one punch and then proceeded with his business of picking up his kids. So imagine that. You're going to go pick up your kids and your ex-wife's boyfriend gives you shit. Right? Really? This is a guy who spent some time in juvie. Big dude, obviously still doesn't take any crap. Knocked him out one punch. Real life is not the movies where guys can just keep punching each other in this full grand out fight. Usually all it takes is one good punch. Boom. Down. Chad suffered an injury at his job and was put on medical leave. Okay, this was later on. This would begin a 5 to 6 year long saga where Chad would be unable to work or he would lose his injury lawsuit with workmen's compensation. 5 to 6 years. It was the beginning of this period that Chad and Stacy got back together after being apart for several years and talked about why they broke up in the first place. Well, it's not usually a good idea to get back with someone who didn't work out the first time here, but listen to this. Stacy told him that she knew he had cheated, but she still wanted him back anyways. Chad was like, "Wait, what? What? I never cheated," he said. Stacy showed him a photo of him with some other girl at a bar that some other guy took and sent to her. Some other guy took a picture and sent of her husband, Chad in the story, with some other girl. Did she ever question maybe this guy's motives, want to get in her panties? Or talk to the husband about this? Chad looked at the photo and he could see that it was photoshopped. He pointed out to her how it was photoshopped and she believed him. It turns out this guy had the hots for Stacy and wanted to break them out so that he could get into her pants. What'd I just say? Yeah, well, shit for brain, Stacy actually believed this. Now we know why she was cold and distant and he wasn't getting any, he finally had enough. The amount of douchebaggery for some a-hole to break up a marriage because he wants to tap another man's wife is next level. For those wondering, that guy is no longer around years before this revelation came about. Chad would have beat this guy's ass if he was still around. Yeah, and a lot of guys would line up to beat this guy's ass. So the divorce was based on a lie inserted by a third party with bad intentions. When they got back together, Chad refused to marry her again. I don't blame Chad at all, but I gotta be honest here. I don't think I'd want to get back, even though that obviously he said she was sad when he divorced her, meaning that she didn't want to break up, and obviously, but his needs were being met, and obviously she's still in love with him and all that. And I know how this ends. Still, I wouldn't be too enthused about getting back with a gal who's so easily swayed by a fucking picture. Now, we can all get worked up over seeing a picture, but then trying to calmly, talk to the guy, but do some investigating and all that type of thing. Had he given her any reason to believe he was a cheater beforehand, And I know that there are times where, a guy can see a picture with his wife or somebody, and you're like, oh, that's over. But still, you do some homework to back up not just one incident. But now he's going to take her back when, you know what I mean? Now, He was the one that divorced her, let's be honest, not the other way around. But still, I guess I'd have a hard time bringing somebody back that was, I don't know, that gullible. You know? I'm turned off royally by stupid women. Anyway, when they got back together, Chad refused to marry her again. I don't blame him. We can be together, but we ain't getting married. He said the door is always open for either party to leave if they feel the relationship isn't working out. Very smart, Chad. This will keep her on her best behavior. Because, look, that's the thing, guys. You don't have to get married and you can have relationships. And that way she knows, look, if she stops meeting your needs, she puts on a shitload of weight and doesn't do anything to take care of herself, she becomes a raging a-hole, you can leave her. Not many repercussions. Unless you're in a common law marriage, so be careful. They would be man and wife in the eyes to all but the state. Being R-pilled myself, I'm very careful when giving relationship advice to blue-pilled friends. I'm also keenly aware of the oxymoron of the single guy that doesn't believe in marriage giving relationship advice. Get in line. Some don't want to hear it, others might get angry, others won't believe it. It is during this period of time when he was waiting for the lawsuits to finish that Chad and I had some deep discussions about life, women, and finances. I told Chad that Stacy was an alpha widow. He didn't know what that meant, so I explained to him. I also told him that since he was the one that left her, it makes a big difference compared to her leaving him. Yes, exactly. That's like when a guy breaks up with a gal and friend zones her. It's okay for him to still stay friends. I'm saying that in air quotes here because he was the one that broke up with her. If this Stacy character broke up with Chad here and divorced him, then no way should he ever get back to her. He has the leverage. And let's be honest, the relationship always goes better when the guy has the leverage. I said that the fact that Stacy got back together with him while he was injured and unable to work is a sign that she is being genuine. Yes, let's remember, he's injured, he can't work. That says her heart is for him. And she didn't want to get divorced. I explained how women are hypergamous and have a tendency to leave men when they can no longer do the manly roles of protecting and providing. Ding, ding, ding. How many stories have I covered, guys, where guys lost their income, lost their job and all that, and even guys who were actually trying to get it back, they didn't get it back fast enough. Goodbye. And she's off with somebody else. Stacy did the opposite here. The fact that they had been apart and back together again further strengthened my view that she was in it for the long term now. Stacy knew what it was like being with Chad and being without him. She had chosen to be with him, again, despite his current situation. At the beginning of his disability phase, finances weren't an issue as he was collecting workman's compensation benefits. That ran out after a little more than a year, and suddenly money was a huge issue for them. Stacy had to work 2 jobs to bring in money for the family, and they were barely getting by. Meanwhile, Chad still could not work, and he felt terrible watching his wife work 60 hours a week while he couldn't work. If she got back with him, and she is working 60 hours a week because he's going through that workman's compensation lawsuit, and if obviously he went back to work, then he wouldn't get the payout and everything. And obviously he got injured pretty badly, so it's warranted. The fact that she came back and she's doing all that work 60 hours a week, which sure can be tiring, that says obviously she's there because he has her heart, or more like he has her mind. Being unable to exercise, Chad slowly went from a Chadbod to a Dadbod. I told Chad not to marry women. I told Chad not many women would be willing to do that and that Stacy was something special. Well, her actions are proving that she obviously wants to be with this guy. I will say that. Even though she was kind of a dumbass with the whole picture thing. I mean, really? Not only was she doing it, but she did it without emasculating Chad or complaining about it. She did what had to be done. It was a role reversal. Chad took over all the home duties while Stacy worked. I told Chad the only possible red flag was Brauns Law. Now I'll get into Brauns Law in a second here. So notice she's doing the man's role, doing the work, and he's at home taking care of the house because that's all he can do in this situation. So clearly she doesn't see him as a weak beta because he obviously is not, but he's doing what he has to do. That's interesting. Now, Brauns Law. Under this law, the female, not the male, determines all the conditions of the animal family. Where the female can derive no benefit from association with the male, no such association takes place. Past benefit provided by the male does not provide for continued or future association. Ding, ding, ding. Whatever he did in the past doesn't matter as long as he can no longer do it in the future. Any agreement where the male provides a current benefit in return for a promise of future association is null and void as soon as the male has provided the benefit. A promise of future benefit has limited influence on current future association, with the influence inversely proportionate to the length of time until the benefit will be given and directly proportionate to the degree to which the female trusts the man. This is like reminding me of the movie Cocktail, where y'all seen that movie, the bartender movie, Tom Cruise, and I can't think of the other guy's name, and that guy who was the mentor to Tom Cruise had, I think, like Coughlin's Law, and he had all these like wise bartender laws for this, and this. Which in the end he admitted he was full of shit, but some of them made sense. In short, this law means that women associate with men if and only if she can derive a benefit from the association. Well, 4.5 years of videos, I think a lot of you guys can agree with that. And like many of you, I've been around the block and observed this. Any past benefits doesn't mean anything. It's what you're doing for me now or in the future. This is why a lot of women leave men as soon as that man loses his job, gets hurt, etc. Because what he did in the past doesn't mean anything to the woman. Now, here's the thing, guys. Man loses his job for whatever reason. It can happen. If he is actively trying to get another job, whatever it is, and she kicks him to the curb anyway, that says everything, right? Because any guy can lose his job for any number of reasons. However, the guy loses his job and he decides to sit on the couch and feel sorry for himself for months at a time and getting fat, drinking beer all the time, sitting there just, well, then it is understandable that she can get fed up with him after a while. And after enough is enough, then, but for a guy that's actually making an effort and then they leave him, that's despicable, But yeah, what you did in the past doesn't mean shit. It's all about right now and down the road. Let's see here. However, the promise of future benefit can only make a woman stay if she believes she'll benefit. I told Chad I feel it's unlikely that Stacy's only staying with him for the medical settlement, which was estimated to be around $250,000, but that is a possibility. Fast forward several years, Stacy has been working 2 jobs for years now while Chad was unable to work. She's been doing that all this time. Wow. The settlement is finalized and the amount received is far less than what they had hoped for. So it wasn't $250,000. Chad would have been better off settling for a smaller amount and had just worked instead. Chad has been working in the installation industry for years now and has significant experience now. He worked for and got a journeyman status, which resulted in a major pay upgrade. Awesome. Stacy only works 1 job now after Chad returned to the workforce. Chad got a job for a man in his 60s that owned a business doing home installations. Chad's impact on the business was immediately increasing profitability on the margins and quality of work. The owner was looking to retire and sell his business, which Chad expressed an interest in buying. It was through Chad's money management skills that the family had the finances to offer to buy the guy's business with financing. The business was sold in the fall of 2023. Now listen to this, because Chad now bought the business. Chad said his gross is about $500,000 a year after business expenses, but before taxes. Okay, so in other words, $500,000 in profits. This because he said this is after the business. Pretty darn good for buying a business. $500,000 in profits a year. Then obviously he has to pay income taxes on that. He now has what he has always wanted, a business of his own and in his chosen field of expertise. Stacy works as the secretary of the business. They're getting along great and the business is doing well. Wonderful. Stacy knew Chad was a winner and that he was hurt and not being lazy. She chose to stay with her man instead of leaving him, and now they're both enjoying a good life. Well, great. That's great to hear. It's just I still can't believe that she bought into that picture thing, and given he had no reason for her to doubt him in the past, that whole thing happened. But regardless, there you go. This guy, I ain't going to say unicorn, but I'd say that her actions have shown with her coming back to him for, and her working 60 hours a week for years. And even then, I'm sure she, over those years working 60 hours a week, she made up that $250,000 payout. People thought that's the only reason she was there. But even then, they weren't married. And so, yeah, it's unfortunate they got divorced in the first place, but he was wise saying, okay, we'll get back together. I ain't going to marry you after that whole song and dance. And so now she knows if things get bad, whoosh, but she came back. She was working the whole time when he could not. That says a lot, and I will give that credit. And so awesome for your buddy. He's now back in the swing of things. I'm glad he took the risk and bought that business, and he's added value to the business. Now he's making $500,000 a year. That's freaking great. He earns this, and I wish them absolutely the best. And I'm sure the kids were happy that mom and dad got back together. So there you go. While I don't believe in unicorns, I do believe there are gals out there, and nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes that definitely have good qualities still. They're rare, but they happen. So I'm really happy to hear about your friend, and I wish him the best. So thanks for this story. It's nice to hear occasional happier endings here in this channel, because I don't want everything to be doom and gloom. We actually want we want good families. We want things to work out. We want kids to grow up in a household where mom and dad love each other, and those kids can learn great skills from both mom and dad, and become healthy, well-adjusted people, and create future well-adjusted people. Because let's be honest here, we got a lot of fucking unadjusted people out there, unhinged, out of their minds, and all that. And we need some work. So I'm very happy for your friend. Alright guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. Be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.